All right, hi there. All right, hi there, everyone. Sorry about the late start, but thanks for joining us here. This is our February members meeting of the Municipal Alliance for Adaptive Management, and it's sort of our mid-year check-in. So thanks for everyone coming. We're gonna go ahead and do roll call. I'm not sure how many people we have. I'm just gonna do the folks that are live here, and then if we have any members. Epping is online, yep, so we will do Epping. Jake can introduce himself. So I'm gonna start in this room. I'm Gretchen Young. I am representing the city of Rochester. And I am a voting member. If you can just note that you're a voting member so that the minutes can reflect who's voting. I will vote this.
Jacob, so I think I'm a voting member.
You are.
Okay.
All right.
I always have to choose, even at home.
Jamie McCarty, City of Portsmouth. Today I am a voting member.
Courtney, welcome. Courtney is going to be, I believe, the new representative, the designated person from the city of Dover. So excellent. Thanks for joining us.
Ariel Wright, Newington wastewater voting member.
Sure. Julie Porter, city of live in the city of Dover on the farm.
Sally Solomon, here, Department of Environmental Services, not a voting.
Mel Cookay, EPA, Region 1, not a voting member.
I'm Melissa Paley, Conservation Law Foundation, not a voting member.
Dana Mayo, EPA Region 1, not a
Great. Jake, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, Jake Roger, Town of Epping, voting member.
And Jake, can you hear us and everything okay?
Yes,
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us. And I believe Paul.
Hello, Paul Philosage, voting member from Exeter.
Great, thanks. Thanks for joining us, Paul. I think I've got all of the voting members, correct? All right, then we will get started. First is the approval of the December 6th members meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, one motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, then we'll take a vote. We're gonna have to do a roll call vote. I will start with Paul Blosich.
Yes,
All right, and Jake Roger.
yes,
All right, Courtney Mitchell. Sorry, Ariel.
Yes.
All right, Jamie
Yes.
and Chris,
Yes,
and yes for me. All right, thank you. That's unanimous. All right, next, we're gonna do the election of officers, and we haven't done this yet. So, since the very first one, but with some people moving around, and it really should be done once a year. So I was hoping Suzanne was gonna be here to formally walk us through this process, but I think all we need to do is have a motion and a vote on the officers, and that is chair, vice chair, and treasurer. And previously, I had been the chair representing the city of Dover. I think you actually only had a chair and vice chair. And Suzanne was the vice chair from the city of Portsmouth. And Rochester is acting as the fiscal agent, but it's not like a treasurer position. And the vice chair, Suzanne, was really taking over the role of like secretarial, so posting minutes, doing all that stuff through the website. So,
would you mind continuing?
I would love to continue.
Okay, I'll make the motion. Recommend Gretchen on the chair. Yeah.
I'll second it. Some, thank you. And then would you want to keep Suzanne on as vice chair?
Yes, that would be great.
That makes sense too. Courtney, I think it'll be. Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay. Thank you. got a motion and a second for, myself as chair and Suzanne Woodland remaining as vice chair. Any discussion? Okay, then we will do a roll call vote. So I'll start with you again, Paul.
Approved, yes.
Thank you. And Jake?
Yes.
All right, Ariel?
Yes.
Courtney? Jamie?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right, excellent. Thank you, everyone. Excited to continue this work. Okay, now we're gonna do a mid-year review of the adaptive management plan. And the intent of this is to just do a quick check-in on all of the things that we're doing and hopefully to just bring up any questions that you might have, but I think more to just rest assured that things are, moving along, that we've put together as outlined in our adaptive management plan. I have a spreadsheet. It was a spreadsheet that we've used several years in a row. And so I'm going to open it up, but we'll go through each one of these things and feel free to ask questions, but for the most part, it's just going to be a correct. We are doing that. It's not intended to be a huge in-depth discussion on which on what each item is. Let me grab that spreadsheet. I haven't circulated it. I've got copies right here and I'm about to open it up. Just share screens. See this? Apologize. Okay. Sorry about the highlights, but, okay, so just going through the things, so you, our adaptive management, section A, from the adaptive management plan is the monitoring of the ambient water quality in the Great Bay. And folks will remember, this is largely, managed through PrEP and the work that they're doing. So just going through the things that were outlined in that section, talks about stakeholder engagement. And as you know, there's a Piscataqua Regional Monitoring Collaborative that has the Technical Advisory Committee and is open certainly for public and for participation. Just chime in if you've got any questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of move through these things. The nutrient load estimating is ongoing, it's annual, and it is continuing, so it's on track. Water quality monitoring and sampling, I believe there's 7 tributaries now. At one point it had been 8, but 7 now. Water quality monitor samples at 12 stations. The eelgrass distribution assessment is being done as part of that tier 1 work. And Color, jump in again if I'm off track. Eelgrass abundance health is continuing on. The tier 2 eelgrass monitoring system, that's the water quality and sediment monitoring. And that is starting in 2021, so it has started and they are doing that work. Green crabs monitoring. Color, did anything change with that?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So green crab monitoring has been occurring because not through any funds from PrEP or from the MAM, but because there were folks who were very interested in it. I thought that that was going to continue, but it stopped, so it's not happening in 2024. So if we want that to continue, that'll be something that I have to bring to you as a proposal in the fall of 2024
Okay.
to start up again in 2025.
Okay, all right, great, thanks for that update. Maybe. Might be a little much at first. Yeah, that's- All right, great, thanks for that. River discharge measurements currently, current analysis only, ongoing consideration. The seaweed abundance, we're continuing to monitor, sediment and percent organic matter. We're evaluate the collected data to assess the relationship between the potential eelgrass stressors and metrics of eelgrass health. Append data to prior monitoring by PrEP. Broad access to data through PrEP, of course, and public access to data through PrEP, which became public in 2022. So I guess in the big picture, yeah,
Your timing, that last public access, good day.
yeah, something got messed up there.
We're gonna do it all the time.
That's okay, I'll update this.
Okay.
Circulate as part of the mix.
Can I ask a question on this
Yes.
subject?
Please.
And it's probably directed for Kala. Kala, if you can hear me, it's Mel in the back. So I'm pretty sure this has to do with the macroalgae, that's sort of a methodology to be able to assess macroalgae as part of the state's assessment purposes for determining impaired water bodies, et cetera. And I know we had raised it with New Hampshire DES and when we approved the 2022 303D was the impaired waters. And I'm pretty sure when you presented on the monitoring plan last year, they included a new sort of piece regarding developing an assessment methodology for macroalgae as a potential indicator of future contaminant. Can you speak to that at all, Paul, what the status of that is? Oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a current monitoring approach for seaweed that has been in place now since 2021. Before 2021, we had other monitoring programs for seaweed, but we decided in 2021 that we wanted to focus more on the subtidal areas as opposed to the intertidal. And so that is ongoing. We recently had a meeting of technical experts to discuss whether that is something that we should change, given the challenging nature of monitoring seaweed, because the seaweed that we're concerned with mostly is not attached. It's what's called drift seaweed. So it's very difficult to monitor consistently and see real patterns. So the MAM has actually given us $25,000 to help support a sort of like a white paper of here's where we are and where do we need to go. And so with this recent meeting, I think that we are going to probably, although I need to talk more with others about this, but put out an RFP for some other consultant to come in and look at all the data that's been collected by PrEP to make some recommendations for different options if we want to improve the current program. But again, we do have a program. It's just whether or not we want to improve it. Mel, does that answer your question?
It does, yeah, thank you very much, Paula. Appreciate
Okay.
that. And I know, I recognize it's not probably, well, it's actually covered under the seaweed. So, good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that comment, Mel. I'm having trouble hearing a little bit.
I said, no, thank you, I'm all, that was a good response, thanks.
Good.
All right, so, a lot of the stuff, and again, Kala, you can correct me, but we have the Eelgrass Resilience Project, which is gonna have, So What charrettes in May and June of this year. And I anticipate that being an opportunity for us to get a lot of understanding, not just these items, but a lot of the work that you're doing and start to really talk about where we're headed. You know, what we're finding out, where we're headed, what we expect to see, and what we expect to kind of, where we want to go from here. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I know that this is later on the agenda, but I can just speak to it now since you brought it up. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so as Gretchen noted, there is this project called the Eelgrass Resilience Project, and it's coming to an end now after 3 years. And in May, there will be a meeting. It's not a public meeting that you have to be part of the already assigned public advisory committee, which a number of people on this call are, but not everybody. And that first meeting will be May 7th to really focus on the new data that's been collected over the last 3 years. And then June 26th, there will be a bigger meeting, which will be merging that with the longer term data set that PrEP and others have been collecting over the last 3 or 4 decades and trying to draw some bigger conclusions. So the so what means, okay, this is really cool science. So what does it mean for us with regard to? And some of those with regard to's will be, have we learned anything that should change the way we're trying to improve the health of the estuary, that should turn us in a new direction? Is there anything that we have learned that would maybe point us in a particular direction in terms of a TMDL or a TMDL alternative? Now, our feeling is that that conversation is not going to be able to be sewn up neatly in one 4-hour meeting in June 26th. And so what's going to happen is that the conversation is going to move from this rather limited group of people in the Eelgrass Resilience Project back to PrEP. And in the fall, there will start to be meetings that will be open to everybody who wants to attend to talk more broadly about, okay, what are the next steps in terms of what just people can do with regard to better managing the system, and then what does it mean in terms of potential regulatory options? We cannot get involved in the regulatory side explicitly, but I do believe that we can help isolate different regulatory options and then let DES, EPA, and all of the concerned municipalities take it from there.
So that kind of brings us to, if we want to skip down to items number D, where you start talking about, creating translator model to equate loads to concentrations, improve understanding of potential eelgrass stressors,
Data collection, conduct stressor response analysis to move toward a process-based ecosystem model, and then provide recommendations, especially provide recommendations regarding studying stressors, eelgrass health in the estuary, and potential management actions for target thresholds. So I think that we're at the point where these conversations are now going to start really taking place. So I hope everyone feels comfortable that we're on track with both those sections, section A and section D. Using the work that PrEP's doing. Obviously, I would encourage everyone to stay engaged in those conversations as they come out. It's going to be really interesting this summer and into the fall. At DES, we need part of that conversation, just a whole host of stakeholders and folks will be part of those. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Can you folks kind of, when we use acronyms, initials, can you spell them out first so that we, the lowly people on the outside, can understand what the heck we're talking about? Because I've got at least 4 of them here.
Yeah.
PrEP, TAC's CLIP, I think I know what that is, and PTAP.
Yep.
And, it's just sort of a good rule of thumb. And it would be very helpful for us, yes, payers, to understand what the heck you're talking about. And links would be even better.
I will do that, absolutely. We've talked about this several times, and this is a technical meeting. So there are acronyms that people take for granted. There is sort of an expected base of knowledge from each, but I absolutely.
Understood, but we look at this data on the outside, and when you don't spell it out, then we have to go in and spend time and dig for it. It'd just be really easy for the first time you mention an initial, just do the rule of thumb that you learn in high school, just spell it out, just be helpful.
Yes.
Whether it's a technical thing or not, you know, we're trying to keep up.
Absolutely. And just to help you, if you need any of this, this is taken directly from the adaptive management plan, which does do all of that. What that is. So the adaptive management plan,
I want to just go on with the meeting. I'll catch up on that later.
but yes, so if anyone has questions, like I said, this spreadsheet is taken directly from the adaptive management plan that came from 2023. All right, so moving on, next, we're gonna go to section B, which has to do with the tracking of our non-point source work that we're doing. And most of, it all has to do with PTAP, which is the Pollutant Tracking and Accounting Program. And that was developed by UNH DES that has taken on, and I believe it's still housed on the UNH website, but soon to be housed on the DES website. I think so, yeah, I think they might move it. Yeah. So, and that, I encourage everybody to be putting in their, non-point source work, both structural and non-structural, and to have, more as developers are coming through, make sure they are updating as well. And then Sally, did you want to give any update on some of the work we've done this year?
Sure. So Jeannie from the UNH Stormwater Center has been doing some technical assistance. I think we worked with you a little bit, Chris, up in Milton. He also reached out to Rollinsford, and has done a little work with them. He did a little work with Newfields, as well, helping them get their data into PTAP and getting them set up with permissions to get in there and all of that. And also Newington, and I think too, Ariel, Jamie wants to reconnect with you to see if we can sort of keep up that effort a little bit to get data in, so. So yeah, he's working on that. And I think he is also working on thematic mapping, and working on being able to better show long-term trends from land use change. So that's sort of bigger picture tracking, the mapping sort of effort, that he's working on. Potentially maybe even with you, Danielle, right? So that work is happening. And so we're continuing to work on those things, and also looking at maybe improving credits for street sweeping, catch basin cleaning. So based on more current science and information that we have on board. And at some point we'll tackle the septic system. Yeah, so we're gathering momentum to work on that as well. So PTAP continues, which is tracking and accounting projects.
Are there continued, the large meetings, or is it more focused?
It's more focused now. It seems to be more one-on-one, and also with this transition to including more communities with an MS4 focus. We might start to do more online trainings and things like that, so that there's broader accessibility. So we've kind of moved away from those big work group meetings that we used to have in the past to have more targeted outreach. And then also looking to do more accessible outreach through online trainings and stuff like that. So I think as we get to that point, we'll be looking to folks to see, what kinds of trainings would be most useful for people. Is it how to use the database, how to sign into the database, how to run reports, things like that. So I see that as sort of ahead of us in the coming year. Because we are going to bring in the sport house. So
I think Jamie, you've been helping them to work on that report by then.
And using it and providing feedback. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, and
Use it as well.
So Gretchen, just two things. First is for PTAT, just encouraging everybody to use it. It's incredibly helpful for us.
Yep.
When we're looking sort of cumulatively at the progress you're all making. We recently did a review in the fall of the, input so far, and people seem to be putting things in. a lot of non-structural, but also some structural stuff. So that's exciting. It's exciting to see the reductions being tabulated. So that's great. Encourage. And the other thing is, Jamie and Region One have been working together on some projects for land use, land cover, and impervious surfaces and pollutant loading. And we have all of Great Bay mapped. So if you're interested in looking at your town at maps of land use, land cover, and pollutant loads and stormwater control measure siting analysis, we have that available. So if you reach out, I can probably make you a pretty quick map for your town. We've done it for a few towns. We've done it for looking at all of Great Bay, but it's on a town by town basis. It's a lot more useful. So it would help sort of looking at, where maybe pollutant loads are highest or where land cover pollutant loads are sort of an area of interest for your town on a tax level. So let me know.
Yeah. I'm guessing that's similar to the hotspot maps that we've
It
been
builds
hearing
on the
hearing
hotspot
about all
maps.
these years.
Yes,
exactly. I would say it's like hotspots next generation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Takes it to the next level. of
Awesome.
functionality.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. All right, great. Sorry, yep, MP4 pounds, what is that? MS4.
And this is the municipal separate storm sewer system.
It's a permit that, the communities, most, communities in the area would be over as a MS4, and it has to do with regulating, non-point source work. So, yeah.
Okay, so
Stormwater.
catch basin,
Keep going.
like that.
Polluted runoff,
That's just like
so.
Big,
right over
no,
there.
big picture of stormwater.
Like this map.
Well, this map-
Which is not completely honest.
Okay.
Well, to be fair, yeah, no map is completely honest because the data is changing daily and hourly. And thus to keep any map accurate, you need to literally at least once a month update. And I don't think, unless there's a whole host of new people come along, there's not enough people to enter the data to keep it up to date. So it's always gonna be lagging behind those sort of things. But yeah, the bigger thing to understand about MS4 is instead of looking at stormwater, one street, one parking lot at a time, it literally looks at whole areas or whole communities. So for instance, little old Milton, we only look at the area along the developed commercial area, because the rest of it is rural. And
Well, that's the problem with this mapping thing, is your rural part of it is quite not true when it comes to nitrogen loads.
well, what really makes it difficult is we're on the border. And Maine doesn't participate or give us enough information, so we're really are looking at one half the picture. If you can figure out personally how.
Well, yeah, it's on the ground, that's the only way you can do it, really. Boots on the ground. With the old fashioned way, go out and test, because I had my property tested. And their maps say that I have like over $4,000 or 4,000, whatever total TSS. So it's- which is gonna put me in the Dover tax bracket of, I don't know, over $30,000 a year. And I had my property tested all the way to the Bellamy Reservoir, which I bought, and there was no increased nitrogen anywhere. So I don't know where this score you're,
What comes from modeling.
I understand that, but it's wrong, because there is no increased nitrogen.
Well,
Anyway,
more data.
No,
would
it's
make-
not anyway, excuse me. I mean,
no, that's
misleading.
no, no, I'm
He's
not.
trying to answer my question, I appreciate that. I'm not gonna be dismissed.
Well, and
She knows, she was there, this was all her doing, this Dover tax, rain tax thing.
I understand, but, the last person who was in your. Not representing Dover, came to this group. I kind of was short with, because time was pressing at the moment. I realized now that was probably not the best way to handle it, so I am trying to. give them that.
But I think there needs to be a mechanism in all this. I'm sure on time myself, I'll get out of your hair.
No.
But I think there needs to be a mechanism, whereas us farmers, okay, who follow best management practices, which UNH tells us, extension tells us, put nitrogen on our soil to grow stuff.
Mhm.
All right, and then the other side of UNH is slapping us for it.
Mhm.
There needs to be a consensus on this, and there needs to be some representative. Because there are still a few farms left, not many.
Right.
But there are a couple, and we do follow best management practices. And there has to be a mechanism, which there wasn't in Dover, it's just willy-nilly, let's go and tax these folks, which is why it didn't pass. People got hold of it and figured out what their impact was gonna be.
Mhm.
So I don't envy you at all of the job. I don't know what they're gonna do now, because we still have a UPA contract.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate you trying to answer, it. But I do think that it's flawed, that's all. And I think the folks that need to listen to us out here, and what we're seeing, and how it is flawed and how it needs to be fixed.
Oh, that's why you're here. Appreciate it.
No, I apologize, did not mean to cut you off. Just wanted to keep focused on going through things and then, review some stakeholder comment. After this update, but just continuing through this, the next piece is going to be, talking about the overall source reductions, the work that each community has been doing. And that is an individual community's responsibility to be doing that work and then also to be tracking it in the PTAP. So whatever the non-point source projects that are being done in the community, whether it is on private property or on public property, make sure you're taking credit for it in the PTAP program. Does any specific questions on how that is coming along for each community? So that's fair.
Well,
Go ahead and listen.
but you know, most people know we have 2 grants we can work on.
Yep.
The one, the $90,000 grant. Nitrogen, actual on the ground stuff in Milton was approved. But we have a separate one for the nitrogen in the lake. And part of that is also going to look at septic system loads around the lake. I don't think we quantify it at all to be somewhat accurate. So we're always but good reminder to get up. Some of that is the feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. Melissa, did you have a question?
The question is whether the, load reductions in parentheses.
Those, that is their, each community is, I know, I saw that too, that's been legacy from over several years, so that's the percent of the total load that each community is, of the regulated load. So it's just a reminder for folks that are saying, oh, Milton, you're falling behind. It's a reminder to say, but you know, Milton is 1.01% of the regulated load. So it's just a reminder, you know, a context of like, okay, Portsmouth, I think, is really excelling with PTAP and staying on top of it. And that's a large contributor. And Milton maybe needs a little hand holding or whatever, but that's, you know, contextually. So that's the only reason those were in there.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Yep. Very helpful. Yep. Okay. And then moving on to the last items, there'd be item E, which has to do with developing, let's see, developing a 5-year monitoring and data analysis plan. We've been working on that. Monitoring and scientific studies, we've talked about it. Synthesizing and interpreting what has been monitored. Talked about what our approach is going to be for that, but I don't think that's been finalized. We'll have all these SOWOT charrettes and take a look at that, and then we would potentially have, it sounded like maybe an RFQ for a consultant to take all of the data that PrEP has. The restoration planning approach, all of this stuff is kind of the next step. So these are the things that are going to come out of those SOWOT charrettes. Reach consensus on restoration planning approach that is hopefully coming out of these SOWOT charrettes. Modeling and technical analysis to support restoration plan, draft restoration plan, final restoration plan. So those are out years. We're still kind of working through what data and what information we have gathered in the last few years and last decades. And we'll take that and move into the next phase of this. Any questions on that? All right, well then hopefully people feel comfortable about the work that is being done. And our next adaptive management plan will be due in September of this year. Yes, go ahead.
I'm actually glad to see the worksheet. And the reason being is I've had to do several for our community to keep track of who's on first, what's on second, who's responsible for what project. So glad to see somebody else thinks the same way and or is so you're dealing with trying to manage it all. And the only way to keep track is to have something like this because people are trying to say, hey, how are we doing? But
Yes.
and you're like, who was on first? Who's taking the lead? Who was the last conversation? So I appreciate it. I thought I was going to
Well, and I think it's a sign that what a collaborative effort this has been. And like I'm hearing about the work that GPA is doing, that I need to know about, that we need to build up. So, you know, this is kind of my thoughts, but I hope if I'm missing something, even if it doesn't come up right now, let me know. We'll keep these updated because there are so many moving pieces.
Yes.
You know, Richard, on that point, you know, through the work that Danielle described, obviously we were aware of the hotspot. Now,
Yep.
I think Jamie's presentation on that before, but if you wanted, would we be able to
Oh, yeah, that'd
present
be
on
great.
it, like at the next meeting?
That would be awesome. Danielle, thanks for
We're waiting for
volunteering.
tomorrow.
This is wonderful. Yeah.
I'm only delegating her to find somebody.
No, yeah, that sounds great. That would be great.
Well,
Actually, that's not
I'll
bad timing. Summer is not be bad time.
Yeah, that sounds good, because then you can give an update on whatever, or I'll just kind of leave it open to you and you can give an update on kind of whatever you share, so that'd be wonderful. Okay, moving on to item number 5, then project update. We, Colin was able to share the project update, and what's coming up with the So What Charrettes. So item B is the Great Bay 2030 Regional Street Sweeper Project. And you may remember Great Bay 2030 was a sum of money that was donated and for just kind of innovative projects. And one of the projects that was selected, and it really has nothing to do with NAM, but it was selected was the Great Bay Regional Street Sweeper Initiative. The idea of the regional street sweeper, and it was building on the collaboration that NAM was doing, but looking to get outside of regulated communities. And do you want to give an update, or I didn't have to?
Sure, I can start and then
Go for it.
you can chime in if I figure out the lane. So the initial idea behind the project was to sort of evaluate operationally, was regional street sweeping feasible? And if so, what would that look like? Like how much would it cost? What would sort of the structure of such a program be in terms of like insurance and liability, and where would the sweeper truck go and what would the reductions be and all that? So we did do a procurement process to hire a firm to participate in the project, and that's Woodard & Curran. So they are currently looking at the feasibility of a program like this. And I think they're finding that it's possible that regional street sweeping with one truck, as we saw it naively conceived back in the early days, may not necessarily be the best approach. And there may be other alternatives that are more effective, easier to structure, and may get us more in terms of load reductions. So we're still kind of at the early stages of the project, but they are sort of working on what would this look like, and maybe if the original idea isn't quite on spot, what are some other approaches that could be evaluated. So I think that's sort of where we're at. We're meeting with the consultants in a week or two to sort of hear where they're at and what some of their research has been, and sort of how street sweeping also intersects with leaf litter collection, and where the nexus is between these two activities, and then what some of the efforts are that we could leverage around that sort of fit this notion of a regional approach to dealing with these things.
And then peripherally or tangentially, I don't know exactly, but the project with DES taking the lead on, which is the soil management or street waste management program, is happening. The outcome of that will inform, I think, will inform how successful a regional street sweeping program can be, because I think it'll inform, how we'll manage the soils that we are collecting and sort of what the implications are to going outside of regulated communities. So those things are gonna have to happen simultaneously, but the logistics, one is really focused on logistics and how it will all work. One is focused very much on just how regulated communities and all communities will be regulated with their, the waste that is generated. So more to come on that, and it's an interesting topic. Any other business or updates on projects that folks are working on?
Just to say, looking at my previous comments, so, from Milton's perspective, I've always questioned what amount of nitrogen was naturally within the lake and was naturally occurring. In other words, not to lay it all blame on the wastewater treatment plant. The plant only serves a relatively small portion of the population of the town. But that, my gut, and I know I'm not supposed to put the gut, but told me that what impacts the lake and thus the water flowing down past the wastewater treatment plant and eventually being sampled was probably more contaminated from nitrogen and phosphates than people recognize or want to recognize. One of the problems being that a lot of the seasonal dwellings have turned into year-round dwellings, and that a number of people, because they weren't forced to, required to, never upgraded their septic systems. So these little tanks that they had were, I don't think they're efficient. I'm not sure that a lot of them are working. I came to that realization from two things. One, doing a lot of septic systems down in the Milton area, and there's a sand ester, if you will, between the two major water bodies where a lot of the camps are. What's called the year-round dwellings. And one in particular, UNH professor came over to do a replacement septic system design for his camp. And I said, well, where's your well? He said, under the sink. My first thought was, how do you get a drill rig like through the roof under the sink? It wasn't. It was he was pounding in 4-foot sections of galvanized or stainless steel pipe. It basically had a well pump because the active water table was 9 feet down. But this building camp was not much longer than this room. His well was there, and the septic system would have been behind that wall. And I jokingly said, do you ever have any water quality issues, especially like after a big weekend? Oh, no, the water always tastes great. Okay. Because if you hydraulically overload an older system, the water is literally pushed or forced back down the water table with some treatment, but not probably with all the treatment that was ever intended. Then my other experience was that every year we would go through a point where the fecal count at the town beach in sight of where all these camps are would always spike. July, August. Okay, water temperature rises. Everybody would go, oh, it's due to the geese, it's due to the ducks. I'm like, nah, there's something bigger at risk. And now I've come to realize that there's actually, third thing was, resident approach, your road killed my septic system, it's been dead for the last 2 years. He's probably within 500 feet of where the beach was. The fecal count was higher than the beach. So for those reasons, we pursued those other grants. I pursued with Three Ponds Association, a grant to analyze the lake water, at least on a seasonal basis. And then the Conservation Commission, with their planner, pursued what can we do off-site to handle those things? And or things to look at, farming, density of land use, the intensity of land usage, things of that nature. So a number of those things are pursuing, as I pointed out to the board the other day, you have 9 federal grants in federal or state loans or grants to pursue various things. But some of the question was, why can't you, Chris, as town manager, get some other things done? And I'm like, well, just the paperwork alone for 9 grants. It's a lot of work. And then on top of that, it relates down to 5 separate projects going on with the wastewater treatment plant. So we're looking at interconnecting our, instead of doing a plant upgrade, we're looking to interconnect our facility in Rochester. Peter Norris and the company have just started to look at our facilities plan. So that's, that's a 5-year plus process, I predict. We've never had developed a CMOM, which is a collection maintenance system program. They thought once you put it in the ground, keep at it, just keep flushing. So we're catching up a lot of those things. Milton's rather new to this wastewater game in that in about 1985, when we were strongly urged, forced, convinced, however you want to put it, to actually install a wastewater treatment plant. Because prior to that, it used to go right to the lake. And we're important because at least in water quality, this Berwick's water supply comes from the river, so does some of this. And as a crow flies, it's not that far in distance. So we realize we're at the headwaters for most of this, and have had literally as a community upping our game to be more of a partner and look at our responsibility that I think we have in the past. And that comment is intended to offset a comment I made a couple of meetings ago when I said that why were we pursuing 2 different studies, and then but through some conversations and analysis and actually looking at the scope of work, it really is apparent that there's 2 different areas that need to be looked at, and they really can't be combined. They really should be looked at separately. So thank you, Sal, and some others for having the patience with me to point that out, to talk that. That's what we.
We have a hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. Paula, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that for a while we were seeing Gretchen's screen and then we couldn't see the room. Now I don't see Gretchen's screen, but I also don't see the room. Maybe that's not just on my end. Stacy, are you able to see the room? No, Stacy can't see the room either. Well, don't sweat it too much, but if we can see the room, it's nice just to track the conversation a bit.
No, that's all right. Do that. Wait,
There we go.
Ariel, oh yeah.
All right. Hi.
There you go. Sorry about that, Paula.
Sorry.
Thank you for letting us know.
It's all good.
Okay. All right, then we will move on to item number 6, stakeholder comment. Melissa, anything on the stakeholders?
No, as you know, this board, the stakeholder committee has not really, really hasn't taken hold. There was an effort to put a committee together, but given the very technical nature of what, goes on here, for the most part, it just takes it very challenging. So I continue to be sort of remiss and trying to figure out what stakeholder committee command could should look like. And I'm open to suggestions.
Well, any like CLF updates, you guys, anything? Working on, or this last item I thought we sort of looking at the RDA Yeah, both, the RDA petitions is with the EPA, we haven't heard, any detailed progress on that, so, I don't know if that's something the EPA wants to address. We, continue to reiterate that, we would really encourage communities to develop, effective, sustainable stormwater management programs that would serve as, an alternative to, federal permit, and we're looking to see communities, implement such. I know it's had some bumps in the road, but that continues to be, community support. Okay.
Right, and item number 7, public comment.
Yes.
Well, I have 1,001 questions. I can't get them all today, but I guess the biggest one is this DBS chart that was sent to me by New Hampshire DBS. I thought many people over there. Apparently it's the last time it was checked. Your nitrogen levels in Great Bay were 2016. Now, he mentioned that this was in process of being done, is that correct? DBS chart.
So the 319 was guessing.
This is an, the DBS chart, shows nitrogen loads, and sent to me. But it has shows wastewater treatment plants. Non-point sources.
Who sent it to you? I have to look up this name.
He's one of the Great Bay guys, young guy. But anyway, the spike shows 2006. I don't know how long you folks have lived around here, but here in my life. I've seen a lot of stuff on this bay. Grew up on the bay. I've seen an oil spill in this bay. I don't know how many of you were here when the oil spill happened in Great Bay. You don't even know about it. It was big. It went all the way to Market, all the way to the Bay field. I guess my point is the 2006 Mother's Day flood, which is what I guess triggered a lot of what everything's happening here. The Bay is since below from when you started testing. I wanted testing going back to 1960. I asked New Hampshire DES, and they said it doesn't exist. And it's got to be, it's amazing that this Bay all of a sudden no one's been monitoring these things, and now all of a sudden it's a big deal. Because that would be really important to see some of the, when they were dumping sewage into Great Bay. I remember Lamprey River and paddling around, and you'd see sewage, raw sewage dumped that eventually went to the Bay. People that lived on the Bay dumped the sewage. That's been corrected in most of those towns. But now the level is way below from the point of when you started testing. So I guess one of my issues here is when are you going to start testing? When will this new data be out for now? And I'd like to see how low or where the nitrogen levels are now.
That's what Culla's been working on, a lot of this
Okay.
monitoring work that he's been doing.
Do you have a new chart yet? DES chart?
Okay, I'm not muted. State of the Estuaries was released last year, and then there's a more technical document that's on our website that has a lot of information on nitrogen loading, and it is through 2021. I raised my hand just now because you're raising some super interesting points, and I can't even tell who you are. So I would love
I'm a farmer. I'm a local tax paying farmer.
Well, I would love to talk to you because I think you're asking great questions. If you could email me at kmatzo@unh.edu, I can give you lots and lots of information.
I didn't get that.
Thank you.
Sorry. All right. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I have more questions than you probably want to even hear.
No, I like it. I enjoy it.
Okay,
So
I
let's get together.
will
We have
definitely-
so much data that most people don't know is around, and I think it's, as I say, you're asking great questions. I would love to talk with you about it because I'm sure other people are asking the exact same questions.
The other
big thing I'd like to bring up at this meeting, because I think it's very important, and when you're new to Dover, it's also important, but I live probably 2 miles from the EPA Superfund site, the Toll Road landfill. And I actually lived in the early 80s, I lived where they piped the stormwater, the raw benzenes and all the nasties that came from the tanning factories when the dump was open. It's an unlined dump. And I lived there when they were dumping all this for 20 years into the Pacheco River. All right, and I monitor my well constantly, because I wanted city water. It was too expensive for me to do, because I'm a couple thousand feet off the road, it was gonna cost me a fortune, but anyway, I monitor my well. I'm very fortunate, the groundwater's underneath water is not going in my direction, but it is going to Portsmouth Water Supply. So it's also going, Tolan has a well out there too, that's closed, so I can't even imagine why this isn't an issue, because I've been told, and no one can actually say this is true, because there's nothing dug up out there, that they're now trucking that stuff, whatever it is, the wastewater, to across the river at the footbridge to the county farm. And I can't find it anywhere that's doing that. I know when you paddle down the Pacheco, the orange pipes in the river is dead for about a mile past the spot where Tolan conjunctions with Greenhill and One Hill River. And you can see it. I mean, you can see the stuff dumping into the Pacheco.
So that, I think Courtney is your girl for that, but yeah, that.
Well, no, that's why I think that's really important for these folks. Well, one, Portsmouth. I mean,
Well,
this is-
we've been to Portsmouth, and Portsmouth is aware.
This is
of all
next
of
year
it.
water supply, and it's an EPA, again, I have a lot of issues, and this whole EPA thing is the main one. And, you know, there's a lot of money floating around that I've heard today. I don't know if it's coming from EPA or if it's coming locally, but that is an issue. And I think that ought to be important in whatever stormwater stuff we're talking about, because it is stormwater and it's going into the Pacheco. So, you know, that's sort of what you guys are doing, right? Stormwater.
Yeah, well, yes and no.
That project is separate from this in that it gets into groundwater, but it is absolutely being addressed and monitored. Portsmouth's well aware of it. Portsmouth's drinking water group, but it is being captured in, so the groundwater is being pumped out. But that's what they say. Okay,
All right, but I just think it's important for this group because it is stormwater and it's nasty stormwater. It's not just effluent. It's nasty.
No, I like you, grew up in Dover.
Okay.
I can remember going with my father to the landfill in Baldwin and seeing a wire of barrels and a layer of barrels. I got chastised once for running to the tannery location in town.
Oh, it's worse. It's
All year.
pits. When they make the oil spill tank, they clean it all up and they put it in Copley Pit and rot. I mean, there's a lot of stuff floating around in the water that's not just us farmers and large landowners. It's coming from, I'm sure, other places. That brings me to studies. When I talked to John Scorer in Dover, I met with him and the city attorney. He says that you're all looking into trying to figure out why. And I think that's the big question here. Why is the eelgrass dying? Why are the snails not dying? Or whatever they're doing? And is it the natural cycle of life? Is it something that us humans are contributing to? I can't find any data on that. Maybe you guys have more, but
That's what the whole investment group is, to get more data. The answer that's.
I understand the data, but the whys. Why is it happening?
So. Like, exactly what you're saying. So that is, they've done these years of data analysis, and so that's what they're calling it, so what shreds, but basically like, what's actually going on? What is actually happening? And I do definitely encourage you to hook
Oh, I
up with
will.
Paula, because he could talk about this all day long.
Yeah, it's not my farm. I can tell you that right now. I have proof of that. So, you know, I'm gonna fight this. And the next tax that comes up, it tells me I'm gonna pay, you know, for something that I'm not doing. I would fully be responsible. If you could tell me that the nitrogen is coming off my full-on roofs and contributing to something in Great Bay, I would be the first one to stand up and then say, I don't want to contribute to any pollution. Nobody does. And so I think, you know, we as taxpayers, landowners, farm owners, whatever, just a little house in Dover wants to know is these things, is why, and not just all of a sudden kind of a new willy-nilly tax that's gonna hurt people. I mean, that whole Dover rain tax thing was a debacle, and it wasn't solving anything. So, you know, that's just my 2 cents to you folks, and I wanna keep up with this because it's important to me if I wanna stay here for my grandchildren, and, you know, the health of the bay is utmost important to me. I spent my whole life on this bay. And I want to be the last person to be contributing to some kind of pollution that these data from UNH is telling me that I'm doing. Then I go and sell my soil samples to Extension and they tell me to put nitrogen back in the soil so I can grow stuff. So there's a disconnect here. That's all I'm trying to say, that there's a disconnect between you folks and us folks, you know, the ones paying the taxes. There's a huge disconnect. And
Well, we pay them.
no, I know you
Yeah.
pay taxes too, but you know, you use all these acronyms and you're all up on your high horse, okay? I'm sorry, but that's the way it feels. All right, when we went through this thing in
We don't think
Dover,
we're not high horses, we think we're actually in the trenches.
Yeah,
when this whole thing went through in Dover, you wouldn't let anybody speak. You stood up there in that room and you would not listen. And I'm sorry, that was wrong. And for the new person coming into Dover, you need to listen to the people. You can't just attack us with taxes, okay? There has to be reason. When you look at these charts and this DES stuff, you know, it doesn't make any sense, all right? None of it makes any sense. And I'm not gonna have some egghead in an office at UNH telling me that my property has a 4,500 whatever total salt surface solubles or whatever it is you're trying to tell me, when that's wrong. And I've tested, and I've had water guys come out and test because I want to know. And like I said, I drain everything, my septic system, my manure pits, all my drainage from 52 houses behind me, all go to my ponds, retention ponds I tested, all the way to the Bellamy Reservoir. And right into the Bellamy Reservoir, there's zero excess nitrogen. So yeah, what is this, I guess? You know, where is this nitrogen? I'd like to know. And why do you, and this is my other thing, and I'll let y'all do your meeting, is no one can answer me, including DES, and DES told me, I gotta get the guy's name for you. How low can you go? All right? When you put crops in the ground, all right, how low can you go, right? There's nothing set up here for, okay, this is good, this is a good nitrogen, all right, but we're still doing all this stuff, and then all of a sudden it goes so low that you're actually killing things in the bed. You're killing the fish, killing the algae, you're killing the food, because nitrogen is such an element, just like CO2, to grow things. So there's no mechanism in any of this that I've seen. I'm not as deep into it as you are, but I understand these things. I did go to school, I did go to college, and I understand certain things, but you can't do all this without having limits to how low. And then what are you gonna do if it does go low? Okay, we've tipped the scales and now we're going too low in nitrogen. We're gonna start dumping shit, effluent back into the bay? I mean, I'm sorry, but
I'll call you to. They're
well, no, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, these are the questions that,
the same questions we're asking.
all right, sorry. Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
But
I mean, that's why I'm doing a water quality study in Milton. I want to know what is the background, what is a normal level, what's an abnormal level? You know, I want to do winter, water quality samples to see
But how
how
long,
much.
I'm sorry, why did it take so long to do all this? I mean, I guess if we were concerned back in the oil spill in the 70s, you'd think they'd be tracking this all over New Hampshire DES.
Well, my friend Dick Atkinson, who passed away, was a big fisherman down in that particular. He could even tell me in the last 10 years of his life that the ecology of the day had changed. The eelgrass got wiped out. Things were changing in the bed. He even himself couldn't put his finger on what those things were, but he knew things had changed. So only after they changed did we start to pay attention to it.
Do you know it's nitrogen? You absolutely 100% will.
Well, that's
say
what,
that it's not.
that's what all these studies are, and that's what, so that's why we've done all the nitrogen analysis and the Eelgrass Resilience Project, and that's why we're having Cullen Prep do all of this. All of them synthesize the data and take a look, and so I think this group says, we don't know if it's nitrogen, we don't know, which is why we're doing all of this additional.
Is it just a normal life cycle of the bed?
These are great questions, and there's a lot of.
I don't
questions
remember
that-
eelgrass, quite honestly, and yeah, toward Newmarket, there was some, but in the bay, those tides are too big to have have eelgrass from. I don't know where these eelgrass is that you turn on it, but.
Again, I'm gonna ask you to
Yep.
connect with Colin,
I
he's
will.
got a lot of answers to your
Right.
questions, but.
I appreciate you letting me speak.
Yep.
Your energy, your questions is what keeps the rest of us know that we're going in the right direction and keep pushing and keep asking. And,
They have to be asked.
yeah,
Because, you know, you can't willy-nilly
And-
just come out to a bunch of people in a
Right.
town, in a city and say, okay, we're gonna tax you based on your square footage
Yeah.
of your barn, your roof, and that's the end of it. And then what is the money, how's the money gonna fix it? You know, that's the other question, you know, that where all this money you're getting and doing and cities are paying,
Mhm.
are they just paying this? Is it really gonna fix it? Or do you know? Nobody knows. And that's the problem.
We lost the picture again, folks. Sorry to be a pain.
That's okay.
It's okay, my computer's dying.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. Thanks, Paula. So our next, I'm guessing will be in June, and we'll put Danielle on the hot seat, for a presentation. Do folks want to try and pick a date right now? Or do Thursday afternoons generally work for people?
yeah.
Gretchen, I think as long as they're not the second Thursday, so they don't conflict with the long.
Okay.
Now that works.
You?
I think that's fine.
Yeah. All right. And a motion to adjourn.
What?
Hear about the
No, it's just part of the problem.
Yeah, my charger cord is behind my desk.
I don't think we need to talk again.
Of course, I figured out the speaker.
No, no.
I was just figuring June gave us some time,
Okay.
get into the summer, we'll be in the midst of this, so what, sure, so it's we'll be thinking about what's going on. We won't have
I would
answers.
be semi-retired.
Oh, my
But I want
goodness.
to do my email, my home email. I think continue.
I think it just like disconnected and reconnected itself.
Just that, it does not say burning promise.
Yeah.
Okay, what's that? And so we will. June 6th. Check work for folks. Yeah, anyone want to host? Is it at 1 o'clock? At 1 o'clock? Yep, all right, we can do it in Rochester.
I'd say no.
It's all right, you'll be in your. You're retired at that point.
Yeah. I have a cookout on the day.
Sounds good. Okay. And motion to adjourn, anyone? Motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right, we got one motion. A second.
Someone second quick.
Second.
All right, Jamie second. All right, we gotta do roll call here. Jake? Oh, I think Jake has a meeting. All right. Paul, he's a meeting.
Yes.
All right. Ariel,
Yes.
Courtney, Jamie,
Yes.
Chris.
Yeah.
And actually, yes, that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Hit stop recording first.
Oh, stop.
Bottom center.
It's good. Thank you.